On an ordinary afternoon, the exclusive Maison Etoile boutique witnessed an extraordinary confrontation. A woman dressed in casual attire, a simple white hoodie, plain sweatpants, and a black cap partially obscuring her face, entered what many considered to be hallowed ground for the elite. Maison Etoile represented the pinnacle of luxury shopping experiences. The establishment wasn't merely a retail space, it functioned as a sanctuary for the exceptionally affluent, where average consumers were distinctly unwelcome. Its understated exterior concealed an opulent interior furnished with authentic leather seating, imported carpets, and shelving units displaying exclusive items from celebrated designer labels. The atmosphere within radiated exclusivity, from the lingering woody fragrance to the champagne served exclusively to select clientele. The subtle instrumental jazz playing throughout the boutique seemed to convey a clear message: if price was a consideration, this establishment wasn't appropriate for you. Emily, the boutique manager, was the vigilant guardian of these unspoken principles. Her scrutiny was unparalleled, nothing escaped her attention. When an unsuitable visitor entered the premises, she identified them within moments. Her attire, a tailored black dress, designer footwear, and flawless posture, wasn't merely a fashion statement but rather her professional armor. She wasn't engaged in garment sales, she was marketing prestige, and she was committed to safeguarding the boutique's reputation regardless of circumstances. The delicate chime of the entrance bell announced the arrival of a woman who, in any other context, might have remained inconspicuous. Her casual ensemble, a basic white hoodie, comfortable sweatpants, and a dark cap that partially concealed her identity, was complemented by loosely tied brown hair and sunglasses that shielded her eyes, making recognition difficult for the average observer. However, in this particular establishment, where extravagance and luxury constituted the only acceptable forms of expression, she immediately became conspicuous, and not advantageously. Emily, who had been adjusting a diamond necklace for a VIP client, momentarily froze. Her gaze fixed on the newcomer. Her assessment was immediate and dismissive: a tourist. One of those individuals who entered merely to browse, perhaps surreptitiously capture photographs, and ultimately depart without making any purchases, behavior that would not be tolerated in her establishment. Discreetly, Emily approached the entrance. Julia, observing attentively from her position, anticipated what would transpire next. And the viewing audience, privy to the truth of the situation, could sense the injustice that was about to unfold. The casually dressed woman examined the displays at a leisurely pace. Her fingers delicately touched the exquisite fabrics of the exclusive pieces. She appreciated fashion, she always had. But she despised the superiority games that some individuals constructed around it. "Can I help you?" Emily inquired from behind her, maintaining a veneer of politeness despite an underlying coldness. The woman turned to face the impeccably presented figure before her. "Oh, thank you, I'm just looking." Emily maintained her professional smile, though her decision had already been formulated. "I see. Just so you know, we exclusively offer made-to-measure pieces. Nothing here is displayed without purpose." The subtly condescending tone conveyed an unmistakable message: this establishment isn't suitable for someone like you. The browsing woman pressed her lips together slightly. "I imagine it's not." Emily tilted her head marginally, momentarily caught off guard by this response. Perhaps she's understood the implication and will exit now, she thought. But no, the woman remained. Then, as if testing the manager's boundaries, she reached for a dress on the rack, a highly exclusive item from the latest collection, with a price tag only accessible to a select minority, and examined it carefully. This action was sufficient to exhaust Emily's patience. She promptly turned and subtly gestured to Julia, who remained stationed by the counter. "Ma'am, keep an eye on that woman." "But why?" Julia questioned. Emily sighed, as though the explanation should be self-evident. "Julia, she might compromise the experience for our legitimate customers." Julia remained silent, but something within her twisted uncomfortably. The wrong individual was being subjected to judgment, and she had no indication of what would follow. The browsing woman continued exploring the store undisturbed. However, the scrutiny directed toward her intensified. 2 VIP clients whispered discreetly while seated on one of the sofas. "Did you see that woman? How did she gain entry? A hoodie and a cap? She resembles a disoriented tourist." The murmurs weren't sufficiently audible for the woman to hear, but she sensed them nonetheless. It was consistently the same pattern, always the same discriminatory game. But she preferred not to react impulsively. She waited and observed. Emily, conversely, needed to resolve this situation immediately. She didn't want her exclusive clientele feeling uncomfortable due to the presence of a woman who evidently didn't belong in this environment. So she decided to adopt a more direct approach. She approached with determined steps and positioned herself beside the browsing woman. "Ma'am," she said with a meticulously practiced smile. "I noticed your interest in that dress." The woman turned toward her, unperturbed. "Yes, it's beautiful. I agree, but perhaps I could suggest something more aligned with your personal style." The woman raised her eyebrows slightly. "My style?" Emily's smile persisted, but her posture stiffened. "Yes, we have some more casual options that might provide a more comfortable experience for you." Julia, observing from a distance, felt her heart rate accelerate. She had witnessed Emily employ this tactic previously, but this particular instance felt different. The browsing woman offered a knowing smile. "You think I wouldn't be comfortable in this?" Emily blinked, surprised for the second time that day. Something in this woman's gaze triggered a minor internal alarm. "I just meant, you think I can't afford it?" The question was posed calmly and controlled, but its impact was devastating. Some staff members averted their gaze, pretending to reorganize the shelves. The VIP clients ceased their conversation, now listening in complete silence. Julia held her breath. Emily, however, refused to be intimidated. "Not at all, ma'am. I was simply suggesting something more appropriate." The woman studied her momentarily, and then did something unexpected. She laughed. It was soft and controlled, but distinctly a laugh. Emily felt a chill traverse her spine. "I see, thanks for the suggestion." The woman continued her exploration of the boutique, and then, as if to challenge Emily's patience further, selected a black silk dress, an elegant piece with an exorbitant price tag. Emily's gaze locked onto her immediately. She inhaled slowly before approaching the woman again, maintaining controlled steps. She positioned herself directly beside the browser, examining her as though inspecting something disagreeable. And then, Emily smiled, but it was an artificial, venomous, condescending expression. "Are you certain you wish to try that dress?" The browsing woman raised her eyebrows but didn't immediately respond. Emily continued without allowing her time to process the question. "I simply mean that this particular design requires a certain posture, a graceful bearing that enhances its natural elegance, and naturally, the appropriate accessories." Her gaze subtly assessed the woman's loose sweatshirt, then the black cap obscuring part of her face. Finally, Emily released a quiet, amused chuckle. "I could recommend something more suitable for your profile." The attack was direct. The woman recognized it instantly, and then smiled slightly, now certain that Emily had no idea of her true identity. Nevertheless, she wanted to determine the extent of the manager's rudeness. The woman held the dress momentarily, then turned to Emily. "And what precisely do you mean by that?" Emily's smile remained fixed, but her eyes gleamed with a hint of superiority. "Simply that this type of garment was designed for women who understand how to wear it properly." The woman frowned. "Women who know how to wear it?" Emily maintained steady eye contact. "Yes, women who comprehend the sophistication of haute couture, who recognize the cuts, the fabrics." She made a vague gesture with her hand. "Who don't require assistance understanding the value of a dress of this caliber." The woman inhaled deeply. She was accustomed to being treated as a Hollywood celebrity. But today, in this environment, she was being treated as insignificant. And that revealed everything about Emily's character. So without breaking eye contact, she inquired, "You think I don't understand?" Emily's smile widened slightly. "I think some individuals mistake this boutique for an ordinary store." The woman released a small, amused laugh. Emily's disdain couldn't have been more obvious. "So in your assessment, I shouldn't be here?" she asked, feigning curiosity. Emily maintained an innocent facade. "Oh, I would never suggest that," she smiled again, tilting her head slightly. "Some of our clients might experience discomfort." Now the attack was unequivocal. Emily was clearly communicating, "You don't belong here, and you're making people uncomfortable." The woman pressed her lips together momentarily, then released a slow sigh. Emily believed she had prevailed. She assumed the woman would depart in humiliation. But then something unexpected occurred. The woman looked directly into Emily's eyes and, with an eerily calm voice, delivered the statement that caused the entire boutique to freeze. "Funny, because when I entered, no one offered me champagne." The ensuing silence in the boutique was deafening. The assistants exchanged glances. The VIP client ceased talking. Everyone was aware that important clients were welcomed with champagne. But this woman received nothing. Emily's complexion paled briefly, but she quickly attempted to recover. "Oh, that must have been an oversight. Of course, I can arrange for a glass to be brought to you immediately." The woman smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "No need." Her voice was soft yet sharp, like a blade. "I've already observed everything necessary." Then, before Emily could respond, the woman turned to Julia, the young assistant who had remained silent throughout the encounter. "Do you think this dress would look good on me?" Julia hesitated. Her gaze shifted from the woman to Emily, and then she inhaled deeply and answered, "Yes, it would look incredible." Emily felt the ground disappear beneath her. At that moment, she realized something terrible: she was no longer in control. Emily still believed she maintained authority, but she was about to lose everything. Emily couldn't believe the situation. That woman in her white sweatshirt and black cap refused to leave, and worse, she was reversing the power dynamic. First, the audacity to question her judgment. Then that pointed remark about the champagne. Finally, Julia, her own assistant, had the nerve to contradict her publicly. Control was evaporating, and Emily couldn't tolerate defeat. So she resorted to her specialty, attack. Emily stepped forward and forced a cold, calculated smile. "Well, since you're so interested in that dress, I can summon one of our sales assistants to assist you in the fitting room." Her tone contained unmistakable disdain, as though implying, "If you insist on embarrassing yourself, I'll ensure I witness your humiliation." The woman immediately perceived this. But before she could respond, Emily addressed Julia instead. "Julia, please take this piece to the fitting room and determine if we have an appropriate size." The woman raised an eyebrow. She understood precisely what that statement implied. Emily was subtly suggesting that the woman didn't possess the right physique for the dress, that she wasn't sufficiently refined, that she didn't belong in this social sphere. Julia felt a chill down her spine. A tense silence permeated the boutique. Some VIP clients smirked discreetly, not because they genuinely found it amusing, but because this scene of humiliation had become too compelling to ignore. The woman inhaled deeply and crossed her arms. She continued holding the dress and glanced around. Now the scrutiny wasn't focused solely on her, it extended to Emily as well. Some clients appeared to enjoy the spectacle. Others, however, appeared uncomfortable. They recognized that if this woman was being treated disrespectfully, the same could potentially happen to any of them. Emily realized this, but her arrogance prevented her from stopping. She intensified her approach. "You know, ma'am," she began in a falsely casual tone. We have a more affordable store 3 blocks from here. Perhaps you'd find it easier to locate something that better suits your style there." The comment was brutal. Even Julia held her breath. The woman released a low, disbelieving laugh. "Did you just suggest I visit a cheaper store?" Emily remained steadfast. "I simply think some clients prefer something more practical and comfortable," she smiled, then delivered the final statement that sealed her fate. "After all, luxury isn't universally accessible." The subsequent silence was overwhelming. Even the VIP clients were uncertain how to react. The sales assistants averted their gaze nervously. Julia felt her stomach drop. The woman maintained her smile, but now it wasn't friendly, it was dangerous. Then she did something unexpected. She took the dress, draped it over her arm, and proceeded toward the register. Emily frowned. "What are you doing?" The woman stopped directly in front of the counter. She observed the cash register, then looked directly at Emily. "I'll take it." The entire boutique collectively held its breath. Emily released a scoffing laugh. "Really?" The woman nodded. "Yes, after all, luxury may not be for everyone." She removed her sunglasses. "But I'm reasonably certain it's appropriate for me." Emily turned pale because at that moment, realization dawned. One of the VIP clients gasped. Another whispered in shock, "Oh my God." Because without the sunglasses, everyone now recognized her, Margot Robbie, the Hollywood star. One of the most influential women in the film industry. A woman with a fortune exceeding $320 million. Emily felt the ground vanish beneath her. The color drained from her face. In that instant, horror consumed her. She had just publicly humiliated one of the world's most famous actresses. And now everyone in the boutique was aware of it. And then the boutique doors opened again. What followed was something no one would ever forget. Emily remained immobilized. Her eyes fixed on Margot Robbie. The shock hadn't fully registered yet. She had just humiliated one of the world's most famous women. And now everyone in the boutique knew it. The VIP clients were speechless. The sales assistants didn't dare move. Julia held her breath, sensing that something even more significant was imminent. And then the boutique doors opened again. The soft chime echoed. But this time the sound seemed different. And when he entered, the boutique collectively ceased breathing. He walked into the store with slow but decisive steps. Leonardo DiCaprio. His long black coat swayed slightly as he moved. His slightly disheveled hair gave him an effortless appearance. But his eyes weren't surprised. Because he already knew precisely what had transpired here. And he knew whom he was seeking. Without hesitation, he traversed the boutique without acknowledging anyone else. Emily felt her body tense. The VIP clients covered their mouths, stunned. Julia swallowed hard. And then Leonardo stopped directly in front of Margot. And without uttering a word, he embraced her. A hug, strong, genuine, the embrace of a long-anticipated reunion. Margot returned the embrace, a gentle smile forming on her lips. Emily felt the ground disappear beneath her. No one could process the unfolding events. Because it wasn't just Margot Robbie. Now it was also Leonardo DiCaprio. And he had just embraced her like an old friend. "It's been too long, Robbie," he murmured, pulling back slightly to look at her. Margot smiled. "Far too long, Leonardo." And then he surveyed the surroundings. He observed the boutique. And finally, his gaze met Emily's. She felt her body freeze. Because at that moment, Leonardo DiCaprio understood exactly what had occurred. He didn't need to inquire. He had observed Margot's expression. He had noticed the tension in the sales assistants' faces. He had registered Julia's nervous stare. And then he spoke. Leonardo turned back to Margot. And in a tone calm but saturated with irony, he asked, "I hope they treated you well." The impact was immediate. The VIP clients glanced at Emily. Julia bit her lower lip, tense. The sales assistants held their breath. Because everyone knew the answer. Everyone knew that Margot Robbie had been humiliated. And now, Leonardo DiCaprio knew it too. Emily attempted to speak. But nothing emerged. Her entire body felt paralyzed. Because regardless of what she said now, the damage was irreversible. Margot released a slow, quiet laugh. She looked Emily directly in the eyes. And then she calmly stated, "Oh yes, they were unforgettable." The words penetrated Emily like a knife. Because they weren't expressed in anger, they were spoken with absolute certainty. Emily felt her face burn. She wanted to say something. She needed to say something. But there were no more excuses. No escape route. And then, the worst possible outcome materialized. One of the VIP clients, an impeccably dressed blonde woman, turned to one of the sales assistants and murmured, just loudly enough for everyone to hear, "If they treat Margot Robbie like this, imagine how they treat the rest of us." The boutique felt the impact of those words. And at that moment, Emily comprehended that her career, her reputation, the status she had spent years cultivating, was about to disintegrate. And then, Emily's phone vibrated. What followed was something she could never have anticipated. Emily, feeling the weight of every gaze upon her, finally reacted. She inhaled deeply, forcing a polite smile. "Miss Robbie." She cleared her throat, her voice unsteady. "I had no idea who you were." Margot crossed her arms. "And that should justify something?" Emily opened her mouth but found no answer. Because for the first time, she realized how ridiculous she sounded. "No, Emily attempted to recover. "It was a mistake, a misunderstanding." Leonardo raised an eyebrow slightly. "A misunderstanding?" The boutique seemed to collectively hold its breath. His tone was low but carried the impact of a sledgehammer. Emily swallowed hard. She inhaled deeply, desperately attempting to regain control. "I simply wanted to ensure our experience remained exclusive." Margot released a quiet laugh. "Oh, so now you determine who deserves respect." Emily felt her breath catch. She knew she had lost, but she still hadn't witnessed the worst. Leonardo observed, not interrupting, but his expression was clear. Justice had been served. The sales assistants no longer regarded Emily with respect. The VIP clients no longer admired her. The boutique, once her domain, now felt like a prison. Her phone vibrated again. She knew that on the other end of the line, the boutique owner had already seen the videos. Her career was in ruins. And then, with no remaining strength to fight, Emily simply lowered her head. Because there was nothing left she could do. And then, Emily received the message that would definitively seal her fate. Emily held her phone with trembling hands. On the screen, a notification. It was from the boutique owner. "Emily, we have a serious problem. I need to speak with you immediately." Her heart pounded. But before she could react, something else occurred. One of the VIP clients suddenly stood, grabbed her designer handbag and announced loudly, "I don't patronize establishments that mistreat their customers. I'm leaving." And she exited without looking back. Emily swallowed hard. She realized that she wasn't merely losing Margot Robbie and Leonardo DiCaprio's respect. She was losing everyone's. And then, another client stood. If this happened to her, it could happen to any of us. The murmurs commenced. The sales assistants exchanged glances. The boutique, which had once been her kingdom, now felt like a courtroom. Emily was isolated. And then, Julia delivered the final blow. She inhaled deeply and, without making direct eye contact with Emily, removed her boutique name tag and placed it on the counter. I can no longer work here. The shock on Emily's face was immediate. Julia, her voice emerged low, almost pleading. But the young assistant didn't hesitate. She turned to Margot and Leonardo and did something unexpected. May I accompany you both to the exit? Margot smiled. Of course. And then, the boutique doors opened once again. And the manager, who once prided herself on determining who belonged and who didn't, now stood in silence as everyone departed, leaving her behind. But the worst was yet to manifest. And Emily wasn't prepared for what would follow. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the city, Margot Robbie and Leonardo DiCaprio were seated at a quiet cafe. Julia, now the former boutique assistant, was with them. She still appeared somewhat overwhelmed by the entire experience. Margot sipped her coffee and looked at the young woman. So Julia, what's next for you? Julia shrugged, appearing slightly shy. I don't know. Maybe I'll search for something new. Somewhere I can genuinely learn and develop. Leonardo smiled. Well, it happens that I know a few individuals who might assist with that. Julia widened her eyes. Really? Margot smiled. We enjoy helping those who deserve it. And then Margot's phone vibrated, a message from a friend. She opened it and read aloud, the boutique manager has been officially terminated. The video now has 32 million views. Margot looked at Leonardo and they exchanged a knowing glance. And then she delivered the final words that would permanently conclude this narrative. Some people believe luxury equates to power, but genuine power is knowing how to treat people with respect. Leonardo nodded. Julia smiled. And across the city in a silent apartment, Emily was learning that lesson the difficult way. Status wasn't permanent. The judgment of society was swift and unforgiving. And ultimately, luxury was meaningless without dignity. If you appreciated this narrative, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore additional stories of hope, compassion, and resilience. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes, and don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.